Come on. We should be up. And, oh, I need to change it to public. And make sure that is good. Yep. Okay. I think we should be live now. Obviously, we're not going to have anyone jumping in for a minute. So, yeah, we'll just bullshit. Do you want to... should we start off with, like, talking about, like, orcs and...
Yeah, I think that kind of... Definitely, like, it's a good one to talk about, but it's going to feed into sort of when we talk about how the meta is going to evolve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially why I think certain Lord of War units are going to be really good going into that meta. But yeah, obviously, like, we'll chat a little bit about it, because, like, that's what everyone's talking about this week, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's, like, reciprocal, because it comes into the toughness 8 kind of style units and those kind of things. I've absorbed a good bit of the orc kind of leaks and stuff. They look cool. I mean, I'm kind of like, yo, this is a well-written book. Yeah. Like, it doesn't scream overpowered like the Admech does or the Drakari. I'm just like, yo, I like a lot of the stuff here. It's like pretty fun.
I watched about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour of a I think it was Hellstorm stream this morning, just because I had nothing to do, and I did, like, a lot of people were talking about how the new beast snaggers. Hey, we got some idiots in the chat.
Our boy,
of course. Hey, what's up? Hey, we're just doing our little pre-show right now, just kind of going over some stuff. But yeah, I've seen the preview, or that, like, he was reading through the Orc Codex and talking about the new beast snaggers, how basically their prediction for every competitive orc list, at least to start with, is going to be the beast snagger on a squig times 3 and 3 patrols, because you can only have one per detachment, and then 3 squads of 10 of the beast or the boys, like the T5 boys, or the Strength 5 T5 boys, or whatever the hell they are, because they're slightly better than regular boys now.
Yeah, they're like a point more as well.
Yeah, so, and like basically, obviously this is first reading predictions. And I'm not an orc player, so
I saw that, and I saw lots of people getting hype about it, and it's like, it's so. You know, like when a codex like first comes out that's like pretty good or whatever, and it's like the initial meta build that like everyone takes for like a month, and then it's like actually really easy to crack. I think it's that, like, that's what that is, where it's like everyone's like, oh, obviously the beast snaggers are the most powerful thing in this book, and it's like, like they read well, but they're pretty easy to counter, and like they're not really like anything. I was listening to the Long War guys talk about it. Okay. And they had some hot takes that I was like, yo, that's like way scarier.
Really?
Like they were talking about lists with like 180 regular boys, and I was like, yeah, that sounds awful to deal with. And I think they were saying like some of it's like the Rocket Truck Squeak Buggy or something is like pretty good now as well.
Okay.
Like a lot of those buggies are good, and
I did notice that.
Yeah, the Gorkanaut or Morkanaut or whichever one of them.
The one
that's
dropped,
like pretty tasty.
A shit ton of points.
And got way more bullets.
Yeah.
And like people are like, oh, it's like really bad that it's Lord of War now. I'm like, well, it costs you like 1 CP to bring it because of the new detachment rules, so it's not that bad.
Yeah.
You know.
I do a couple things quick. Chris Pagel in the chat says he's interested in hearing our opinion on the Khitan. Well, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have an opinion on the Khitan.
I have such a strong opinion on the Khitan at the moment that if I'm able to go to the Coventry GT, I will be bringing a Khitan. I'm pretty sure. I'm like,
hold on,
pretty on the fence about it.
Hold on, save it.
Yeah, we'll save that for the main one. But yeah, I got some big opinions on the Khitan. I think it's just a really useful thing.
I understand. And then Deanie's here, Berserk Painting. What's going on, Dean, mate? Hope you're having a good Sunday. And so the other thing I think we could briefly touch on, like, aside from orcs, it's been a pretty hectic weekend competitively for our World Eaters, right?
Yeah, dude. Shout out. Shout out to the boys. Like, bringing it home. I'm so proud, you know. I don't know if proud the right word. I have great admiration for the work that was put in this weekend.
So obviously we had Mark and David Savage, who I'm not familiar with, but he's a Team Texas player. And then Dan Brook is currently playing his third round at a RTT, a 28-man RTT as Pure World Eaters. And he beat Sisters in his first 2 games, and his third game is against Sisters.
3 for 3. If he goes 3 for 3 against Sisters, dude, I'm like impressed, because that's like, I think that's I sort of compare it to like the Blood Angel matchup, where it's like really easy to trade, but to trade efficiently is very difficult. Yeah. If you get me. So obviously someone like Dan Brook, he knows how to trade efficiently.
Well, he's playing Dan Bates, who's a Glasshammer player.
Okay,
so,
cool.
So yeah, there's some names at this one. There was a couple of Team England players.
What RTT is this?
The Bring the Ruckus up in Manchester.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's several Glasshammer players. So yeah, there's some names here, but yeah, I'm bringing up the BCP stuff just so we can get all the.
But yeah, World Eaters, big weekend for them. Lots of competitive stuff. I mean, the guys over, it's the Lone Star Open that they're playing.
Yeah, Lone
right?
Star. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah. I mean, man, that's like I think, isn't that the biggest tournament to have happened since COVID? I'm pretty sure.
It's slightly smaller than the ACO.
Right. Gotcha.
I think there's like 160 odd players in this.
Okay. Cool.
And I think the ACO had a little over 200.
Right.
I think, if I'm remembering my numbers right, but it cool. might be, I might have it the other way round.
I mean, regardless, like they're up in the top what?
They're both 20%? In the top 50. So
yeah,
I think Mark. I'll get the results here in a minute. I'm just. God damn it! For some reason, BCP on the web is harder to navigate than the fucking app.
Always the way. But yeah, I mean, look, it's great results. Like we're pretty much seeing, I think, what we expect from us competitively. Like sitting around that like just above 50% win rate, like 50 to 55, I think is pretty much our expected win rate, which is really good to see that it's coming through. And it just harkens back to kind of what we've always been saying about how like World Leaders actually play 9s better than they ever played 8.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, sure, the competition is pretty tough, but it's arguably not as tough as 8th edition competition was.
Yeah. I would 100% agree.
And that's more to do with actual game rather than the armies, I would say.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. The mission, the way the game plays, the way the mechanics of the game. Who was I had a chat last night with Zach Rockner from Vox Demonicus. He's on Brohammer.
Yeah.
And I've got a video dropping about it. I recorded it obviously, and I'll drop that midweek. But was talking about very much that, and I mean it's something we've talked about. Mike's talked about it. Mark, everyone in the Discord has mentioned how essentially the 9th edition is why we're doing pretty damn good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a huge help for us. It allows us to play the game we want to play, while also playing the game as it's intended, I guess is the best way of putting it. Yeah. Like our natural playstyle leans into the desired playstyle quite well, I think is a good way of putting it. Which is useful. I think the only thing we're lacking to really play 9th very well is durability. And that's always going to be hard as a Space Marine army.
Yeah.
Because like that's not really what they're designed for, unless it's specifically like Death Guard or Thousand Suns. Also, on like things that happened this week, that new Thousand Suns model is freaking awesome. I love him so much. But what I love more is all the memes, the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Man, I think my favorite one was like where he was like holding the 3 of clubs, and it's like your card was the 3 of clubs. Dude, so good. But yeah, he's really cool. I like that model a lot. Also, my Malagurst arrived in the post, and unfortunately, it was not the Praetor model.
Yeah,
dude, I was so bummed. I was like, I wanted the Praetor. But yeah, so I'm going to be working on him to make a Dark Apostle. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm
okay.
looking for inspiration for cool Dark Disciples to go alongside him. I was considering getting like 2 bounty hunters from Necromunda, but I was like, yeah, I don't really want to spend like €30 on Dark Disciples. So,
Right, yeah.
you know, but yeah, I'm gonna make a Dark Apostle for Malagris because the kit is actually really well built if you want to customize it.
Okay.
Like it's not hard to take off the shoulder pads or the head comes separate. So it's actually going to be really easy to make him into a world leader. So that'll be pretty
Okay.
fun.
Nice. Okay. Um, just trying to think anything else we need to really talk about. There's some questions in the chat. Josh says Fellblade or bust.
I mean, yeah, Fellblade. Like it's
Yeah.
apart from the Demon Engine based Lords of War. I mean, you know very well, Jamie. The
Oh, I know.
Fellblade's like
Yes.
the Fellblade is like my baby. I love it so much. I wish I had one. I know. I think it's like Orion in the other World Leaders Discord. He finished painting his Fellblade like yesterday. Dude, it looks hot. It's like black and red. Oh man, I love it. I love it so much. I think it's a good tank. As tanks go, it's good.
It's got so many guns.
It's got so many guns. I always forget it has a demolisher cannon.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. I'm always looking at it. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. And I'm comparing it to like the Falchion, which is the same points.
Yeah.
And I always forget that the Fellblade has a demolisher cannon, and I'm like, yo, that's just so good. You know?
Yeah. Because I've been looking at it as well. But we'll go into that.
Yeah.
And,
it used to have transport capacity for like 4 weeks in 9th edition. That's when I was definitely going to buy one.
Yeah,
I was
well,
like,
that would be, yeah.
That would be insane. Because it was like 20 models as well. I was like, dude, let's go. Obviously, it was never going to remain. But, yeah.
Oh, Dean says, he said, all good lads, been out with the family. Then what's your opinions on the Knight Megara, however you pronounce it?
Yep.
If you're familiar with it, because when it comes to Knights, okay, yeah, when it comes to Knights, I don't know anything other than roughly how to try and kill them.
I would say, because I guess like we won't probably dive too much into Knights when we're talking about Lords of War, because it's not really the focus. But yeah, the Megara and the Atropos.
Right. Yeah.
It's either the Atropos or the Acheron. I can never remember. Whichever one has the singularity cannon. Anyway, they're my 2 favorite Knights. I like the Megara just because it's really reliable and you can juice it up really nicely with Chaos Knights. And then Atropos or Acheron, whichever one it is, it's like quite good shooting, quite good melee. It kind of does everything. And again, you can juice it up really well with Chaos Knights and stuff. So yeah, I think those 2 are like the go-tos for the Forge World Knights for me. Because the other ones, like they sort of, while they have like interesting profiles, you can kind of just get the same stuff from other Knights for cheaper.
Yeah.
And like a lot of them lost their cool stuff. Like the Lancer lost its like 2d6 advance roll and stuff. And the Peripheron just got costed out of existence, which is really unfortunate.
I'm not a fan, honestly, of the GW Knights model-wise, but I am a huge fan of the Forge World Knights. If I was ever going to go Knights, I would probably build a fluffy Knight army for based on of Forge World models. I like the Helverins and the Armigers, Warhounds, whatever they're called, War Dogs. I don't like the normal Knights.
And is it just the silhouette of them you don't like, or Right, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, like they don't feel big enough to me, whereas the Forge World ones stand, I think some of them
tall.
stand like maybe 4 or 5 inches taller than the
because they have a different they have a completely different chassis, Yeah, for sure. I get that. I mean, I do like the GW ones. I definitely prefer the Chaos Knight because it has like the different legs, ones that like there's like a word for it, but like
they're more dynamic, good. Right? They're actually kind of moving.
They bend in different ways at the knee joint.
Okay.
Like it looks more sensible, if you get me, as in like it's not as restricted in terms of its like movement arcs and stuff. But yeah, the Forger one looks so cool. I like the tall ones like the Lancer and stuff. They're just like so cool. Yeah. They just look menacing as well. Yeah. I really like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good though. As like I know Dean is like doing a lot of knights recently, so yeah.
Yeah, right.
Megara is cool, and then the one with the singularity cannon, just because like that's a cool name for a gun, and it also has a rule called macro extinction protocols, which I just think is also a really cool name. And it doesn't do anything much. I think it's like rerolls everything against like other Titanic or something.
Okay.
But it's just cool though, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some idiot has left 30 messages. I'm going to read you. You don't have the chat open, do you?
No, I don't. I don't.
So let me read you these messages. Orin, 3 Vindicators, 1 Hellblade. Let's go. Yeah, I wanted to buy it because of that. Smiley face. No, they are also insectoid, 2 jointed, or 4 the legs.
Oh, yeah.
No, it got buffed. That thing is decent. So, I don't know. I'm assuming...
Could be a lot of things there.
Yeah. Fellblade. It's just yelling Fellblade. Some idiot is yelling Fellblade in the chat.
The Fellblade is amazing. You know, I mean, it just looks like a World Eaters tank. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's like in Angron, Slave to Nuceria, when the Fellblade like rocks out of the landing transport, and the guy in the top he's like shouting down at Khorne. He's like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah.
And Khorne's just like, drive forward or whatever.
Well, and one thing I love, especially about a lot of the Horus Heresy era like crossover vehicles, Forge World seem to paint an awful lot of them in Old Legion World Eaters white and blue for their like display pictures. So the Fellblade, like the Contempt to Dread, several others are all in like the World Eaters iconography and stuff, and that instantly made them cooler to me no matter what, regardless of the rules. I was like, that's badass.
Yeah, like for me, it's a really good way of like, you know, visualizing what they'll look like when I paint them.
Yeah.
And if I like the way, you know, because I think it's the same. Isn't the Karabatis painted as World Leaders as well? I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Anyway, I remember looking at something like that and being like, oh, that's how I'm going to paint my Dreadclaw or whatever. But now I won't be painting my Dreadclaw for a while because it's probably not coming to tournaments. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's cool, you know, like obviously, like you said, like when you see a model that you like and it's painted in your Legion's colors, you're like, yo, like straight away, let's go.
Yeah,
you know?
it makes it a bit like nice to, not hell, it's yellow. All right, some idiot, I don't understand the context.
Oh, I think is that the Karabatis? I think it might actually be painted.
Oh,
as
yeah,
Fists.
it is. Like Imperial Fists or something. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so we'll kind of briefly talk about orcs, and I'll let you kind of take the lead on that. Then we'll talk about the the competitive. Like I'll just go over. I'm not going to drill into the games, but we'll look at the 4 for 2, that sort of stuff. Just talk about the results because I've got it all open on my other screen here. Then after that, unless there's anything else, we'll go on to kind of like what we were planning on doing for a pre-recorded Lord of War video, where we kind of give our favourite unit or units or something. And I know you've got an awful lot to say.
Man, I love my Lords of War.
Because you've got a lot of favourite Lords of War, don't you? So.
They're all my favourite, except for the Lord of Skulls, because I hate that model.
And yet it's our best choice at the moment.
Yeah, I know. It's so unfortunate. Like, I wish I could argue against it harder, but like, it genuinely is just really good. You know.
Someone posted a conversion or a kit bash of the the top half on the like spider legs. I think it was 3D
Oh,
printed.
I've seen that one. Yeah,
that I can get behind. That I dig. Like that was badass. But of course, 3D printing, it's just still that grey area for.
Yeah, I think there's certain angles that the Lord of Skulls looks cool at, but there's just a lot about the model I just think is silly. You know, I'm kind of like, how does he swing his cleaver? First of all, how does he like lean down? I don't know. His arm is like really small. You know, and like. There's a lot of weird stuff like that, like the vats on his back. I'm kind of like, doesn't really do it for me. And the tracks and the whole centaur thing, I'm just like, no,
I know. I'm right there with you. It's the model itself is what puts me off. Although I am kind of being slowly ever more pushed into getting one, just because I don't know. It would be nice to have one because. if anything's going to get broken for us, I can see it being something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, totally. Yeah.
Because it's
I
a
mean,
Codex Lord of War.
I properly like sat down with the boys once and like talked about how can we make it look cool, and we were kind of saying if it was like not the sort of Kaitan guy upper body thing, right? So imagine if it was like you got the tracks and you got the boilers in the back and the huge plow in the front, but it's like an altar almost on the top, if you get me. And there's like guys up there, right? You know, so there's like guys, and like the guns are like mounted on this altar. So like there's a guy on like the big machine gun and a guy on the cannon and stuff. And but then I guess like the problem comes down like how are you going to do the melee weapon though, right? And I was kind of thinking like what if there was like a huge like chainsaw blade in the front, you know, kind of like where the plow is. I don't know. The only problem is the melee weapon. I'm kind of like I have it all. And like just like, you know, you can make like,
I've got it.
Cool. Hit me
so
up,
you buy a 4 or something of the Reaper chainsword, the Night chainsword, and you attach them down the sides of the, like, as almost like how a chariot would function with like the blades.
Yeah.
You could do, or you know, above the tracks or something. So the idea is that it drives and, you know, Tokyo drifts and just because I like that altar thing. Dude, because you know that that stupid ass mounted sentry gun that Marines got about 6 months ago.
I didn't.
You
even
could
think
get
about
like
that.
2 of them. You could convert them with some of the skull cannon bits. You could have like that. You know, like use some GW ruins or something. Mount a bunch of guns and berserkers like climbing over it.
I just think it'd be so cool, dude.
Swinging on chains like it's a pirate ship, you know.
It's like I don't know. There's like something very like Indiana Jones about it. Where it's like the kind of like culty, like moving, like Church of Doom sort of thing. I don't know. To me, it's like pretty cool. I've always kind of wanted to do it, but I just feel like it's.
The terrain piece.
Dude, I didn't even think of that, and I have a skull altar.
I've got a Bane Blade, because I could use the Bane Blade, because I think the Bane Blade tank is about the same size as the Lord of Skulls, right?
I can see where you're going with this. Yeah. Kind of like, you know, Yarek's Bane Blade. I can't remember what it's called. But like he has that sort of cathedral on the top of it.
Yeah.
And
then just basically using some plastic card and then getting the skull altar, mounting that on top, getting a couple skull cannons, some chainswords around the side, or, you know, big spikes. Or
I actually really dig it, because like you could have the stairs of the skull altar coming up the back, you know, like sort of between the boiler parts and stuff. I have a skull altar at home. I might actually.
Oh, you do?
Ooh. Yeah, I do. It's like in sub assembly. I'm just wondering. I think the platform would be big enough, and it has the cool things coming up the side as well. You know what, dude? I actually think it might be the correct height as well of the body of the Kaitan. I actually think it might be perfect height. I need to check that out when I get home, because I do kind of want to do this like conversion, but it's such a big project, you know. It's huge, and if it doesn't look perfect, it's gonna look so stupid. That's my problem, you know. Be cool though, you know. And I can see like put like a dark apostle on the top and like cultists and stuff like there. You could really grimdark it up. I just think it'd be
it'd be like totally be a scenic piece, like. Oh god, yeah. I wouldn't mind building it, but I'd have to get that painted for me, because the amount of effort that's got to look badass. That's got to be.
I would say the reverse. I wouldn't mind painting it, but I definitely would hate building it. So.
Okay. We may have to find an arrangement here.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I just think it's like the only way I can make the Lord of Skulls cool in my mind. Yeah. You know. Obviously, some people love it, and that's totally chill, you know. I mean, a lot of people don't like the aesthetic of the Kaitan, and I love it, but you know, it's just that kind of thing. You know.
Just wanted to. Dan Williams in the chat just asked if we've discussed the Lord of Skulls. No, we're kind of in our pre-show bit. For about the first 30 minutes of our streams, we just kind of bullshit and talk about what we're going to talk about. So we've just been kind of catching up a bit and going over the video. We have talked about the Lord of Skulls, but we're going to talk about it again, I'm sure. So probably in a few minutes, about 5 minutes, we're going to actually properly start the chat, if that makes sense. If anyone watches the Long War, we're kind of still in their format, because I mean it works. It's a good format, and
it's cool just to hang out and, you know, chat with everyone at the start as well. Kind of just like I guess you get to see a side of you know, you and me that isn't necessarily just like you know, the sort of film side or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I
Drinking
think
my
that
tea
that could
from
be cool.
my wife's cup. You know.
Nice.
But yeah.
Too hot for tea here, man.
Oh, it's never too hot for tea. What are you talking about?
I don't know. It's never too hot for coffee for me.
Yeah, I think I'm about 8 cups deep at the moment, so I need to lay off it for a little while. I'd like to sleep
Fair.
at some point.
That's fair.
What we got? Heyo, I play 30k a lot and was thinking of doing Allies with Demons of Ruinstorm. Might even see if I can play them 40k. Any suggestions for units? Not really talking about demons in this one. I don't know if anyone in the chat has good ideas. Done a video previously
with Mike, right?
With Mike Pestlins, where we specifically talked about Khorne demons. If that's something you're into, just check the channel or search for I can't remember what I called the video, but yeah, just look about 3 months back in the past of the channel. We had quite an in-depth discussion about demons. It was using Khorne demons with World Eaters. So yeah, like, I don't know if it will exactly answer your question, but yeah.
I am just before we go live. I'm just gonna run upstairs, grab my phone in case we need some stats, and I'm also gonna let the dog out because I think he needs
go
to
for it, mate. I'll sit here and look pretty for everyone. So
you can also like promo, I don't know, some charity thing that we got going on or something.
Oh,
Melkor saves the kids. While I'm gone.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, just remind everyone. So Funny Creature, World Eaters with Khorne Demons is exactly the topic of that video. The video is called, you know what, whilst we're waiting on Dara, I'll go ahead and bring it up and see if I can show you the thumbnail at least. Where are we? Oh, it's been a while ago. There we go. It was 3 months ago. Oh, I can't. So let's... Give me a second here. Whoa. Oh, disappeared. Yeah, here we go. Alright, so... Look, doing this job.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just trying to get the video thumbnail about that Mike Pestlins thing because I can't be bothered to set up a screen in OBS for it. If you
want someone who knows about demons, like Mike's your guy. I had like dismissed a lot of things until I read stuff that he wrote, and then I was like, "Yo, this is hot," you know.
Yeah.
Like that guy gets the game, and that guy really gets the game when it comes to demons.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely, like in big way.
So don't ask us.
Yeah, we're
about that kind of stuff.
Definitely check out Warphammer. Hey, Freitas is here. What's up, man? But yeah, definitely check out warphammer.com. He's got a Discord. If you have anything remotely related to demons, that is the Discord to go because that place is hopping 24/7 with demon players. But yeah, so all right, I think we can just go ahead and jump into it.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right. I'll give us about 10 seconds of silence, and then do you want to intro us in?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, yep. All right. Give it silence for a sec.
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to the Red Path. Today, myself and Jamie, we're going to talk about Lords of War. We're going to talk about how they might start to become influential in the upcoming counter meta, or meta as we see it. Also, a little bit on kind of, the week's developments. We're going to chat a little bit about the orcs and stuff like that are popping up. And I guess like it'll all feed quite nicely into the overall kind of, everything we're going to talk about will sort of come together in a nice little blob. That'll make sense.
I think it will,
Yeah. So, Jamie, what are we going to talk about first today?
So, well, there's 2 orders of business I want to touch on before we go in to the Lord of War thing. And I think based on your intro, let's do the World Eaters results first. And then we can go into the orcs, because then that feeds us a bit easier into like meta stuff, right? Does that seem reasonable? I know that's the complete opposite of what we suggested 10 minutes ago. But
no, I think it makes sense, dude. Yeah, I think that's good.
But yeah, so just anyone listening or who's currently watching live, it's actually been a pretty hectic weekend competitively for World Eaters players. Obviously, we had the Lone Star Open in Texas going on, and we had 2 World Eaters players in a field of 165. We had 2 players. Obviously, Mark Whitaker, who did real good at the ACO. I'm just trying to find his name again because he ended up 34th with 4 wins and 2 losses with pure World Eaters. And he actually ended up 2 places ahead of Don Hooson.
No way, dude.
Yes,
really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Don Hooson was playing Death Guard. He maybe got some really hard counters, quite frankly, which is going to happen. And then David...
I mean, Mark is also a fantastic player.
Oh, yeah.
Though, you know, like we're talking about people who get their army, you know, and Mark gets the World Leaders in a way that I think he has a very unique take on them, which I admire. I don't think if I brought his list, I could play it very well, you know, and that's the thing. That really stands a testament to him. I look at his list and I'm like, that doesn't seem like a good list to me. Yeah. But the way he plays it, I'm like, yo, that is like super admirable, you know.
The thing about it is he understands exactly what we theorize, right? We're always talking about movement, deployment, you know, using everything. I think because he's played the game for a long time, right? He's got just the years of experience. He's seen the situations. He knows what happens when you advance a T8 Rhino chassis, Vindicator up the board and sit it there. He knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
And, you know, so with that kind of experience, 100%. He's a great player. And, you know, the thing is, you hear the names like Don Hooson and Jim Vessel and, you know, other big Chaos players, right? And because they're thrown about, they're great players, nothing against them, but because they're consistent, a lot of like the players who may be some of the best Chaos players you don't hear about. Obviously, we know Mark now, and he's obviously up there and as strong a player as these kind of names, right? And I think I don't think he's pissed off, but I think he's he's really buying into the challenge of taking pure World Eaters. That's
all right. Yeah, I think there's a couple of the folks who've really kind of owned that challenge, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, Mark is making big inroads into it. You know? Yeah. I know I was talking to him before, and he was like, "I really want that Latara Sarin bust," and I was like, "Okay."
He's
fair enough.
He's in a very strong position with it right now. He came 34th with 452 battle points. Then in 40th place, David Savage, who's a Team Texas player. I've not heard the name before. Evidently a strong player as well. He came 40th with 437 points with 4 wins and 2. He got 2 100-point victories. So there's someone who is not taking Octarius.
Did not know that. Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his secondaries and stuff were. But evidently it was stuff he could max out, and he bloody well did max it out as well. 2 100 scores, a 97 and a 90, and his losses were 20 and 30. And do you know what his list was? Oh, you've gone silent, mate. I can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Sorry. I did not know. I was really curious because I didn't see what his list was. I know Mark's list, but I didn't see his one.
David took 3 Dreadclaws.
Really?
3 Dreadclaws, yes. Right? And it's surprised. I predicted he would be. It would be a good show for him to go 3 and 3, just based on looking at not knowing him, but looking at his list.
Yeah, because it's like a coin flip kind of play. I think the Dreadclaws, but he obviously knows how to work them really well. So that's really impressive. Yeah, I can't remember the other the rest of the list. I mean, I believe it was an aggressive. Deploy just focus on a bunch of 8 and 9 inch charges. Cool.
So
I mean, I guess like the thing with that is like it's like the way I know when I was discussing the Dreadclaw and throwing it around and stuff. I said the thing about the Dreadclaws, you just have to have enough of them to mitigate the percentage likelihood of failing your charges and stuff. So if you bring 3 and you have enough stuff in there, statistically you're gonna make like 3, 4, 5 of those charges. So depending on how much stuff you bring, right? So at that point, like if you have say 3 units of berserkers in your opponent's lines in turn 1, you can look at that in a lot of ways, but every single way is like that is a big problem for your opponent, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
like I think like the only thing really holding me back from taking that play very seriously and doing it myself is the fact that I would have to buy 2 more Dreadclaws, and I'm just like, I ain't doing that,
Yeah, I understand.
But really really respectable showings from our boys, really proud.
Then some idiot in the chat just said the list is potentially technically illegal. And yes, I understand, depending on how the TOs have ruled the, above 50% of reinforcement points and or units.
Yeah, it's always a weird one because
it's just number of units. But we don't know what he took in the clause. Just because he had, 6 squads of 5 berserkers or whatever the hell he took, doesn't mean you put them all in the clause.
I also think that's like one of those things that he probably messaged the TO beforehand and was like, hey, what's the story? Because like I know if I was doing that, I would, and I would ask them. I would just say, how would you play this? And depending on what they say is like, okay, I either will or won't bring that.
It's a big, that's obviously something you would check. And at a huge event like this, I would imagine someone would have said, hey, why is more than half your army off the table? This is the rule, and this is what I got from the TO, right? There was a couple other events. Victor over in Sweden, Victor Schuberg, he was in a tournament, an RTT. He unfortunately went 0. He lost all 3 games against Tau, Blood Angels, and Gene Stealer Colts. And I was talking to him on Facebook about it, and weirdly, Tau are like, we are the one army in the game who Tau are still strong against. Literally,
right, because of Overwatch.
Yeah, like everyone else can either doesn't care about Overwatch or isn't reliant on charges, or they've got like extra ways to kind of skirt around it. Right? Not us.
No, not at all.
Other than Warp Talons, which you are not using from Deep Strike, unless you're playing a Tau player, in a friendly or local match or something, you're not bringing Warp Talons for that intent. So he had a rough. But the Swedish meta, from everything I hear, is pretty hardcore and cutthroat over there.
It's crazy. It's like one of the weirdest metas in the world.
Okay.
But it's so good. They love their Gene Stealer cult. It's so weird. There's so many Gene Stealer cult players there.
Really?
But like they kind of have a meta where they just do whatever they want. I respect it so much. I love it. But like they are really good players. Like when they are there. So yeah, for sure. Cool to see it though.
And one more I just want to touch on quickly before we move on is Dan Brook is playing or probably finished now, the Bring the Ruckus RTT up over in the UK. I'm just seeing if the final scores dropped in. It looks like his 3rd game was a loss. So he ended up coming 10th. He played Sisters of Battle 3 times in a row, won the first 2, and he lost the 3rd one.
Going to get unlucky eventually, right?
Yeah. To a Glasshammer player, Dan Bates, who went 3-0. So, you know what? Good showing from Dan. Took World Eaters and kicked some Sisters of Battle ass 2 out of 3 times.
Love to see it.
Yeah. 4 years old versus a 3-month-old Codex. Good showing, mate.
Good stuff.
But yeah, okay. Let's have a little chat about Orcs, right? Because I think
just before we dive in, I'm just going to let the dog in.
Yep, go for it.
I think he needs to run, but yeah, you can lead us in, and I'll be back in like 2.
So obviously, we got the Orc Codex dropped today, or the pre-orders, or whatever it was this weekend, and it's in the grubby little hands of people who have the early release, and Orcs is looking interesting. There was a lot of skepticism from what I heard in like the last month or so from people saying it's just not going to change the meta, it's just Orcs. Obviously, I'm not an Orc player. I was excited for Orcs because I love Orcs as an army and as a concept. I know a lot of people are either that you love Orcs or you just think Orcs shouldn't be in 40k, which is fine. You know, that's fine.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
whatever
them.
is your fancy. You know,
Yeah.
I actually I don't think that they shouldn't be in 40k, but they're probably my least favorite faction, I
Okay.
would say. Yeah. I mean, like that's just I'm not really. I've never been into orcs in any kind of fantasy trope or
Right.
whatever. That's all that is for me. But yeah. I mean, I still obviously as much as I don't like orcs, I love orc players.
Yeah,
They're like the best
I
people.
think that's why I've got a soft spot for them, because I
Right.
just think, yeah, like
Yeah,
it's
they're just crazy dudes.
it's fun, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what are your kind of hot takes on what you know about the Orc Codex, Dara? Like, I've got the vaguest overview. Obviously we know about the T5 and stuff like that. But what are your kind of initial thoughts from what you know?
Yeah, cool. So like not being an orc player, I can only really say so much on the whole thing, I guess. But obviously, like, the thing everyone's talking about and strikes everyone as being quite strong is the snake bite kind of thing, which is very good. The transhuman on strength 7 or less, like that's really strong, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. Definitely early doors, we're going to see a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be hyped about it, and understandably so. And I think that's going to kind of feed into what I'm saying later on about why I think that, your tough 8 Lords of War might develop into a good counter meta, because a lot of them have that strength 8 weaponry.
Yeah.
Like the Kaitan has its Gatling cannon and stuff. It's strength 8, but it's high volume, so it's really good at taking out those boys. Stuff like that I think is going to be really good. But also, so like they're strong. The Squig guys are strong. Mazrog, that guy on the Great White Squig, is very, very powerful. We're gonna see him. We're gonna need to know how to deal with him. Kind of like we need to understand he has an incredibly high damage ceiling, and can do a lot of hurt to us. And equally his like diet version, the unnamed guy,
like war boss on a Squig, or
So like orcs are good, and orcs are going to kind of like play similarly to how they did before, I think. But better, and in some ways worse, because they're a lot more susceptible to morale now. Which means we can really hurt them on the morale front. Which is interesting, I think. But I think my hot take on orcs is like it's not going to be very different from what we're used to seeing, I think. But it'll just play stronger, and we need to be smarter about how we play around it, I think. Like Berserkers are going to have a hard time going into Snakebite boys, because like we're only going to wound them on 4s, right? That's going to be tough.
Exalted Champions and Lightning Claws are going to, if we see an orcs creeping into the meta in the same way that, like right now it's Admech, Drakari, and then you've got, your smattering of sisters and stuff like that. If orcs if you're going to a 5-game or a 6-game event and you're fairly sure you'll play orcs, maybe it's time to bring the Exalted Champion out if you're not already, right?
For sure, I think wound reroll buffs are going to really, really help, and like the Lightning Claws, like you said, are going to be great too. I think stuff like that is going to be strong. Getting as much hits in as possible is going to be really strong. So look to firepower that does a lot of shots and that kind of stuff as well. I don't think it's going to be particularly hard to counterplay into orcs. I just think you have to be a little bit smarter than we already were. I think a lot of their vehicles have like -1 damage now, which is going to be a little bit tougher. But again, like a lot of our stuff specializes in single damage, but high quality, high quantity. I just think that the Berserkers will have a tougher time. That's the thing, and like obviously they're the meat and potatoes. But like they still kill a lot of boys, with the right stratagems, the right character aura buffs that you have going on, they're still gonna pick up a lot of boys. Sure, we're not wounding them on 3s or 2s or whatever, but if we're wounding them on 4s re-rolling and they're not getting a save, dude, like we're picking them up. That's the thing. What we have to worry about is the sort of not so much like the boys kind of aspect of it, but like a lot of those vehicles and stuff are going to hit us pretty hard.
It's bikes or the trikes, bikes, boom snacker, Daz wagons or whatever the hell they are, and the Squig, because they're pretty speedy as well.
And orc bikers are going to be really scary now.
I think they can get like 22 inches of movement or something. It's something absurd with their
and a lot of shots.
Yeah, so that and weirdly enough, I'm already prepped for that now, experimentally. So I'm not, whilst I'm still scared of them, I'm not racking my brains on how to deal with them at the moment. just because I've seen a couple games with high-level orc players using the bikes, and I was like, shit. If I get hit by that, if they turn one me like that, my army's gone. Like
it's a blend. Yeah.
So I was like, what can I do? And you know, I've got my plans now. So yeah, I mean, nice. I agree with you. Like, unless there's something in there that, you know, obviously without looking at the rules proper myself, and you know you haven't properly dove into it, we don't know what the hot armies are going to be for the orcs.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is that, like, the things I thought would be really, really good at playing into the orcs aren't really going to be as good, you know? Yeah. So, like, I thought, like, a lot of autocannons, a lot of heavy bolters, maybe even Reaper chain cannons, I was like, oh, all those things are going to be really good. But, like, I think we have to assume that most people are going to run snake bites, right? So, obviously, those things, those kind of weapons and stuff won't really be as good. And I just, like, I don't know, I was thinking about my Hellblades a lot, and kind of like that they're not really going to have very good targets to shoot at in an orc list, you know, which is a little bit rough. But that kind of started leading me into thinking about, like, things like the Khitan and, like, you know, Leviathans with Gravflux Bombards that have Blast. Yep. Like, that's a hell of a good gun versus the orcs, because you are just going to pick them up, you know? Yep. And especially, like, orc vehicles and stuff, they're going to really, really suffer, too, against, like, the likes of Leviathans. I think general Dreadnought chassis, they're going to be good.
So you're saying the general orc, most orc vehicles have got -1 damage?
As far as I know, right, they do. Okay. Yeah, I like the kind of, like, not like bikers, but, like, you know, like the buggies and trucks and stuff like that. Now, I might be misremembering. Above, yeah, but I'm fairly sure they do. Yeah.
Okay, and then the boys or general infantry have gone to T5, and Snakebite gives them transhuman up to strength 7, right?
Yeah, strength 7 or lower. Yeah.
Yeah. So quad heavy bolter is wounding them on 4s either way.
Yep.
I understand the 2 damage, because it
doesn't matter if it's into boys.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's still volume, it's still cheap volume. The -1, the Reaper chain cannons, strength 5, and they're probably even better depending on what they ended up points wise, because, you know, that's a lot more volume.
Yep.
And it's 1 damage, which is, if damage is being reduced on the vehicles, just plink through it and don't take
pretty much.
So yeah, I think, you know, obviously we got to wait and see and make sure, you know, see if they've got a stratagem that completely nullifies it and stuff like that. But
I think they have a stratagem that is, like, basically just like standard transhuman, you know, regardless of the strength of the weapon. Yeah. I think I might be misremembering, but, like, that's not a huge deal, you know. No. It's like, okay, I was already, like, kidding into that, you know, it doesn't really matter too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I like the thing about the orcs at the end of the day is they want to get into combat. Combat is where we want to be as well. So, like, it can only ever be so bad. It's like the same as the Blood Angels matchup, you know. It's like, until there's a combat army that is really, really terrifying, like 30 Incubi, I'm kind of happy to play into combat, you know. It's where we want to be. Okay,
I'm just going to run over the comments super quick before we kind of jump in. So still pissed that orcs get T5, but trait marines on 1 wound, feel that. Imagine the bike and buggy list will still be popular, agree.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah.
Especially because that's what everyone's currently got anyway, who's playing orcs.
Yeah, it looks cool too. It looks hella cool.
Chain guns, Freitas mentioned chain guns as well. I agree. The Reaper chain guns Reaper chain guns.
I just think they're still kind of expensive for me, you know.
I
that's
agree,
my only issue.
But it's one of them things, ain't it? It's like we'll have to see, because the problem is to get the efficient heavy bolters or the Reaper chain cannons, you're looking at the heavy support slot, of which there's 3. So it does come down. It
depends on what else you're kind of putting into that slot normally, you know. Yeah.
I'm not using any heavies at the moment.
No, me either. But I guess if you're, like, running demon engines, so you probably have venom crawlers or something in there. So you got to think about that kind of stuff. Venom crawlers actually pretty good, because their guns are strength 8.
Okay.
I guess it's like the low amount of shots though, like 2d3 is like okay, but yeah, interesting that their strength 8 goes straight through their armor as well. Something to think about.
Forge Fiend is strength 8.
I hate the Forge. Get it away. No, but like legit though, right? That's a good point. Like a consistent number of shots. Because it's like, how many shots did you say it was
8
again?
shots, I believe.
8?
Yep.
Yeah,
8
I mean, like if
strength 8,
you slap Demon Forge on that guy, you know, you're probably picking up like 5 or 6 boys.
Yeah, you should get 6 hits, and then wounded on 3.
Strength 8, so winning on 3s, re-rolling. So yeah, roughly like 5 wounds, and they go straight through their armor. So yeah, it's not terrible.
Bad,
you know?
But yeah, once he, I mean, it's something to look at. Land Raider Achilles, my man.
If you could buy one, I'd be like, great, but you can't. It's discontinued, so...
You just use a Land Raider and you stick the Volkite on the side, mate. That's what.
My problem is I thought the Land Raider Achilles model was cool, and I wanted it.
Ah, okay.
And now I can't have one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for sure. And like, the options are there, is what I'm trying to say. You just have to question, if you're buying into those options, are you, like, really narrowing into a single type of opponent, or are you still bringing a attack list? You know, you gotta consider those things too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm
just gonna shut the doors so the dog doesn't run out before we
go ahead
before we move on to the next
trials one. Trials of house sitting, I guess. I'll take this opportunity to remind everyone we are still running the Bellacore competition. I did speak to Neil, the commission painter, and he said hopefully by the end of the month he'll be ready, and we kind of talked about it, and because it's going to look so badass, we're hoping to get, you know, obviously push the donations up because it's all for charity in like the last week once it's fully painted, and he's going to have like a dramatic video of it spinning around on a jewelry thing. So anyone who might be interested in donating $5 to Save the Children, there's a link below right now, actually, if you're watching live, and it'll be there if you're watching or listening later. But yeah, $5, and you can get in to win a commission painted Bellacore, which will be delivered to you free of charge at no cost to yourself, unless there's like outrageous import taxes, but we'll discuss that. And you know, I'm not going to let you pay money for stuff, but and yeah, it's just $5 to charity and you get entered. We don't take anything from that. You don't have to be a subscriber or any of that stuff. We just want to raise money for charity. Okay. So, Dara, you're back. Hopefully the dog is happy. And,
I think he's doing okay.
Okay. All right. So let's dive into Lord of Wars now. Should we start off? Because obviously this is something we've been discussing ourselves for a while now, wanting to try and find the time to make a video on it. And our original plan was to kind of do a real deep dive into some list concepts, right? But I think we're going to streamline a little bit. Maybe just highlight 1 or 2 units each, and then from that segue into the meta and the upcoming meta, right? Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, I think like there actually is just too much to talk about if you're to deep dive into everything. Like, there's almost viability to every selection, which is why it's so difficult to be like, okay, cool, this is what you would do. Like, it's very much like do you like that unit? You know, so use that unit. But yeah, let's do it that way, I think. Yeah,
why don't you kick us off? Why don't you pick one of your absolute bestest, most loveliest, favourite Lord of War and tell us about it? So,
yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with the Kaitan because I have it, I've played him a lot, and he probably is my favourite. I don't know, I really like the Brass Scorpion too, but I don't own one and I don't play one, so... but yeah, let me get you the Kaitan Ravager, who got like a fairly... Not like a significant upgrade in 9th edition, but enough of an upgrade that it's not terrible. So yeah, he's 440 points. He moves 12, hits on 3s, which is really significant. I'm going to touch on that later. He's striking toughness 8. Toughness 8 really, really good in the meta right now. Like, genuinely, like, people are starting to realize that toughness 8 is pretty hard counter to Admech and to Drakari. You know, so... Again, this is kind of like the counter meta stuff we're talking about. He's 26 wounds now. I think he used to be 22 or 20. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He got a bunch more wounds anyway. He has 5 attacks, 6 on the charge for now. He's leadership 9, and he has a 3-up save and a 5-up invuln. So, pretty kind of normal stuff. He used to advance 2d6. He doesn't do that anymore, which is sad. So yeah, his Great Cleaver is strength 16, AP 4 6, or strength 8 2 2, and gets 3 attacks. So he could be hitting you with 18 slash attacks, which is really really good.
At minus 2 damage, right?
So minus 2 right? That's going to pick up a whole lot of Orc Boys when you put Demon Forge on it, because it's strength 8, so it gets over the snakebite thing. Yep. Rerolling everything. Picking up boys left, right, and center. They have no way of saving against it unless there's Beast Snagger boys, which I think have an invuln.
Yeah,
or maybe a Feel No Pain.
I think they get a 6-up invuln, yeah.
So that's really good. And then he has the Gatling Cannon, which is strength 8, AP 2, damage 2, and 8 shots. So again, it really, it's like his melee profile for the sweep is the same as his shooting profile. Obviously, this unit can still be Demon Forge, which is stupid. It is so broken.
Love it. Absolutely
love it. It's so broken. And yeah, he has like all the normal like Titanic stuff. He is a Demon Engine. So he's pretty good for 440 points, And this sleeper thing about the Khitan that not enough people talk about when it comes to our Lord of War selections is the Khitan is the same size base as a Knight. Why this is really important is because in 9th edition, we're seeing a lot of boards with way more terrain and way denser terrain. If you bring a Brass Scorpion or a Khorne Lord of Skulls to a tournament, there's not always a guarantee that you're going to be able to move through. But most tournaments are starting to adapt the philosophy that you have to at least be able to move a Knight around the table. Yeah. So if you can move a Knight around, you can move a Khitan around. It's not always going to be the most efficient movement, but it's probably going to be more efficient movement than a Scorpion or Lord of Skulls. And you definitely want him moving around. Thing about the Khitan, and it's like sort of a misconception at the minute, and it kind of goes for like the other Lord of Wars that are Demon Engines. A lot of people are kind of like, oh, if I bring like a Khitan, I have to bring a Lord Discordant to buff him, and like you definitely did in 8th, like for sure you did, because like you could bring like the Soul Forge pack for extra movement and advance and charge. That was really good. Yeah. But right now, that Lord Discordant for roughly 200 points is getting you +1 to hit on your Khitan. That is all he's getting you, unless the Lord Discordant kills an enemy vehicle in melee and is near enough to the Khitan to heal him. Like that's not a good return of investment for your points. Yeah. What would be a much better return is for those points, just take a Dark Apostle, take a Warpsmith. You gotta wait to heal him, gotta wait to give him -1 to hit. Yeah. That is way better, already. They're gonna have a harder time keeping up with him for sure. But putting -1 to hit on a Khitan in the first turn is no joke. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
And it's adding to that that difficulty for those single damage or single shot high damage weapons like your Dark Lances and your Admech Last Cannon Chickens. If you are going from like 66% of them hitting to 50%, that is not insignificant.
Yeah.
The thing is, and like this is going to go for all the Demon Engines that are Lords of War. Iron Warriors is the best way to run them. It's really unfortunate. Like that's just how it is. They're way more survivable. Yep. But like we're not talking about Iron Warriors right now, So yeah, that's the Khitan for me. I think he's really good. I really like him. You do have to build around him for sure. Yeah. But he's really grow, and I think he's just gonna. It's like a combination of the Gatling Cannon and his melee. It plays into the Orcs really well.
Plays into a lot of things at the moment. I mean,
does.
Other than
plays into a lot.
Things that reduce, like Death Guard and stuff, it kind of, But yeah.
Yeah, it sucks against Death Guard,
but then everything sucks against Death Guard.
Right. I mean, yeah, we don't really have a much better alternative there. So yeah, that's my take on the Khitan. So yeah, what do you have for us next?
So just want to quickly address, Dan asked if we're going to talk about the Spartan, and we may possibly touch on it very soon.
That's your little love child, isn't it?
Well, I'll see how long we talk, but yeah, I do have a little thing to say on the Spartan. But I want to talk to you about the love of my life, the Charybdis Assault Claw. As far as Lord of Wars go for World Eaters, you would say the Khorne Lord of Skulls, you would say the Khitan Ravager, you would say the Greater Brass Scorpion. These are all obviously Khornate themed Lords of War. I challenge you that a goddamn tank dropping from the sky, shitting out berserkers from its guts, and then eating everything it can find is 10 times, 8 times, 888 times more fucking Khorne than any of those things combined. Because goddamn it is fucking amazing. I love the Charybdis. And you know what? I'll go over its stats. I wrote a list which I think would fuck some shit up, quite frankly. 3 Charybdises with Khorne, and then shit to score points. And let me tell you why. And unfortunately, it's illegal. I can't take it. But the concept is beautiful. Because the Charybdis is obviously a Lord of War, so you have to pay the CP and all that stuff. It's got 15-inch move, 4 up weapon skill and ballistic skill that degrade to 5 and 6, strength 8, toughness 8, 20 wounds, 4 attacks base, 8 leadership, and a 3 up save. So it's not the greatest profile. I mean, T8 and 20 wounds is nice. The thing about it is, it obviously has to start in Deep Strike. You don't get a choice anymore like we did in 8th. And it can Deep Strike turn 1. And the reason that's important is because 1 Charybdis is equipped with 5 Charybdis Storm Launchers. And a Charybdis Storm Launcher is like a Cyclone Missile Launcher, but better. Because the Charybdis Storm Launchers, 2 profiles are both 36 inches. The Frag Missile is heavy 2d6 blast, strength 4, 1 damage, -1. Gets the AP on there. And then the Crack profile is heavy 2 36-inch, strength 8, -3d6, right? 1 Charybdis can have 10d6 bolter shots with blast and -1. And you send them off in waves of 2d6. So you can fire at 5 blobs if you're facing Admech, for instance, and they're running 3, 4, 5 blobs of 20 fucking Skitarii. I'll throw 2d6 blast, bolters with AP into you. I'm okay with that.
And I mean, they have really good defensives, but if you're putting 60 bolter equivalent shots into them, some are going to fall down.
That's going to chew through. And you see, this works better in my list concept, which I can't run because you have rules, basically. And it also has in combat, obviously 4 attacks with Hateful Assault. It gets 5 if that technically is allowed, and it'd probably be gone away. But, 4 attacks. Blade shots, it's going to be strength 16, -4, 3 damage. It then gets an additional melee attack of a melter gun. It has a melter in melee. So it's always d6 +2 damage, which is pretty tasty. And that is less like a chainsword attack. You have to take one of them after the rest. Strength 8, -4, d6 +2 damage. Not bad. It also has 20 capacity for transport, 15 move, I said. And it does the mortal wounds when it flies over stuff. So if it survives, it's got 15-inch move. It's moving over something, and it's doing some mortal wounds. So for World Eaters, we know transport's important. And to me, this is immense. It is slightly reasonably overcosted. It's 400 points. And the problem why I can't make it work is because to run 3 of them with Khorne, to have all those shots re-rolling, that 3 Charybdis at 1,200 points is, what did I say, 100, it could be against the right opponent, 180 bolter shots with 4 re-rolls with -1. I haven't done the math on Skitarii or whatever, but I think you are crippling your opponent, who is probably not well equipped to take out 3 20 wound T8 models, which have probably got a 3 up, 5 up from a Dark Apostle.
Yep. Or if they are equipped, they don't know what to do because they've never seen 3 Charybdis on the table before.
Yeah. And the thing is, my Dark Apostle would have a Violent Urgency. I will happily charge 3 T8 models into Overwatch.
Yep.
I'll give it a shot. They could try. I'll leave something there, and if I get those in, because I just fly out, and it's got the Titanic stuff. Oh no, it doesn't actually, but I don't care. But yeah, I just think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful, and I wish if it was 315 maybe 330 points, I would, yeah, I'd be all over that. I just think at 400 it's a little bit much. I think it can do well in a skew environment, but
it's definitely a skew style list anyway.
It requires Khorne because it's a 4-up ballistic skill. So
of course,
to get the 75% hits, you need Khorne there because the volume of fire and the versatility of it. If you're facing a vehicle heavy list, the size of that model, it's seeing almost anything unless the terrain is really tall, and obviously you're placing it where you want because it's deploying, short of being screened out. So again, the list runs a squad of 30 cultists, which apoplectic frenzy up the table to make sure you have somewhere to deploy. Mm-hmm. So there's ways to get around the obvious problems with it, other than the fact that you apparently cannot have more than 1,000 points in deep strike, even with the special rules. So that breaks the list. But yeah, okay. So that's my gushing over the Charybdis. Not quite. You would see, if you wanted my honest advice on a competitive Lord of War, it's going to be Lord of Skulls, then the Khitan, and then it depends on your list. But those two, I think at the moment, are probably the most competitive because of Demon Forge, and that just works so well. But yeah, okay.
I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah,
well, I think we should probably do the Lord of Skulls. I think it's like the one that most people want to hear about. You know, it is the best one for sure. Like unequivocally the best.
Yeah. Well, it's got an extra gun. Basically, it's almost the same as the Khitan, except it gets an extra gun, right?
Has more strength as well. It's not going.
And it gets better kind of in combat, doesn't it?
It's like a weird. Parts get better, parts get worse. Yeah. It gets more attacks,
but less
strength. So and moves worse. It's one of those classic like Khorne degradation ones. So it's probably not going to be strength 10 when the Codex comes out because the Khitan was strength 10 and went down to 8. Also, It doesn't matter. Strength 10 does not matter because once something hits strength 8, that's enough. It's like going past that. It's like okay. What do you need to wound on strength 20?
Death
it's like okay.
I mean,
it's like it's not as big of a deal, right? But that's not really the point. So he comes in at a varying amount of points, anywhere between sort of like 460, 480. I think he can go up as far as 500 depending on what you give him.
Okay.
His guns are very good.
Yeah.
A lot of them are like heavy D6 kind of type shots and stuff. Some of them auto hit. Some of them have weird rules where it's like when you're shooting into a certain number of models, you get extra shots, that kind of a thing. His Great Cleaver of Khorne is fairly similar to the Khitan. It's strength times 2, AP 4, damage 6. So same smash profile, I'm pretty sure. However, the thing about his sweep is it's strength user, so it's going to be 10, AP2, D3 damage. I don't really like the D3 damage. It should just be 2. And he gets 3. So
better against Death God then.
Yeah, he has so many attacks though, because he gets a full charge, right? So he's gonna have 27 attacks with the slash. I think that mitigates the D3 damage at that point.
But you know what? D3 started off terrible in 9th edition, and it's slowly getting better with as more -1 stuff comes in. I would prefer D2 damage 2 across the board, but D3 is slowly becoming a little bit better.
It's more appealing for sure, yeah. He does have the Hades Gatling Cannon, which kind of bugs me because it's the same as the Chitin's Gatling Cannon, but it just has more shots. And it's the same modeled part as well, which I'm kind of like, okay, bro.
Yeah,
that's pretty weird. But so overall, he's as survivable, obviously, for all the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about the Khorne Lord of Skulls, and I think it was I first saw Mike saying it, Mike P. So he was just saying you can park that thing in the back of your own deployment zone and just use it as deep strike screener, and he's just going to shoot across the board for the whole game and do so much damage. Because frankly, 1 CP for Demon Forge with the amount of shooting that he puts out is outrageously efficient, and it's just really, really good. I think he's a very, very good unit, and even if you have a board where you can't necessarily move exactly where you want to, he's fine just hanging out in the back and shooting stuff, So
I think that alone is a huge advantage over the Khitan, and is what at the moment makes him the competitive choice. Yeah, because of terrain.
His stuff is just better. His weapons are better. He's more expensive, but if you're buying a Kaitan, at that point you might as well buy a Lord of Skulls if you're willing to invest the points for a better return. I like him. I just hate the model. That's the problem. That's why I don't run one. But and I do think he does suffer from, if he does want to move around, he's going to have a tough time. Like his turning arc is pretty savage. You know, trying to drift him around a building is not going to be easy. But yeah, like he has a lot of good stuff going for him. As far as I know, Mark runs one, right, in his list.
He didn't. He did at the ACO, but he didn't at the Lone Star. He took a Terminator Blob instead.
Right.
So he changed it up. I'm not sure why. I'm sure we'll find out once he gets back. But yeah, the Lord of Skulls has been doing work competitively for World Eaters. There's
and I think like, you know, like people talk about running 3 and like, I don't know about that one.
Not for World Eaters, I don't
Again,
think.
it's like, it's that skewless kind of thing. 3 Lord of Skulls is going to smash some opponents, but it's going to get smashed by others. And it's always going to be a points game with 3 Lord of Skulls, you know. But yeah, look, it's a really, really efficient unit. Just like bringing 1 is probably a good idea. It doesn't really need support because it hits on 3s and you can Demon Forge it. At which point you don't really need any offensive buffs. Like people are like, oh, do you need a Dark Apostle? No, you definitely don't need a Dark Apostle then. Because like it's gonna hit everything, you know. Or not a Dark Apostle, sorry, a Lord Discordant is what I meant to say.
Oh yeah, no.
The Apostle is like somewhat useful for the -1, but you have to question how much points you're gonna save by like is it worth it? You know, that's always the question you have to ask. But yeah, I don't know. Like,
every heavy weapon should go into the Lord of Skulls. Should, unless you're also running a bunch of other T8 stuff.
Right. Yeah. Fact. And so I guess we haven't really said it, but a couple of, aside from the meta sort of developing into something where these units play well into them, obviously the changes to the most recent FAQ where they got rid of Titan Hunters, like that's so significant because like, yeah, sure, if you want to sink all your firepower into my Khorne Lord of Skulls or my Kaitan, you totally can. I am so fine with you doing that because you're not going to get any points from it, you know? Because if I'm just bringing 1, it's like, okay, cool, you can get like 5 points from me. And if you want to waste a turn doing that while the rest of my stuff moves up the board, go for it, man. You know, that's like that is entirely all yours. I don't mind you doing that at all. And that's why it's good. Obviously, then it's also only costing you 1 CP instead of 3. So significant. On one of these Demon Engine units, that's 2 extra Demon Forges that you didn't have before. That's huge. That's so huge. You know.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, do you have any extra thoughts on Lord of Skulls? That's like why I think he's very good, you know?
Yeah, other than what we talked about pre-show with the model, which I don't want to dive into again, no, it's an efficient unit. It's probably one of the better units that World Eaters can take, simply because, and I've talked about this before, I think I talked about it with you, and it was kind of how I was trying to sell the Forge Fiend to you. I think having 1 shooty Demon Engine is currently a great choice for us because it allows us to have a shooty, fairly tough unit sitting on an objective by itself without the need for any babysitting characters, because between Demon Forge and Veterans of the Long War, I don't know which one is the most ridiculously beautiful stratagem, because I'm going to cry when they disappear, because they are, you know, they are really good strats. Like,
I think Deck Guard kept Veterans though, right?
But
it's just called
it's
something
like
else
much
now.
more restricted. It's like only on
it's infantry instead of is Veterans infantry and bikers? I can never remember.
Yeah, Vets is infantry and bikers only.
So the Deck Guard one is like just infantry and it's 2 CP.
And I think it's 2 CP. So it's like a bit of a nerf. But,
I mean, I'm still definitely going to use it if that's what it is for us, though.
Yeah, it's still good, but it's like now you can only use it half as much generally, you know.
Right, yeah.
Whereas before you'd get -1 AP and +1 to wound. Now you're like, well, shit, you know, what's my choice?
What's the efficiency, right?
Yeah, so, and I guess, I don't know if you want to, like, deep dive into too many more units, but, like, I was going to say a lot of what we said for the Lord of Skulls is kind of similar for the Brass Scorpion, because, like, they have a not dissimilar amount of firepower output. The Brass Scorpion is outrageous in combat. I would say it's like stupidly good. It has so many attacks. It's definitely the biggest combat output that we have. also has the runes of the Blood God to just like have automatic 4+ denies.
I like that, yeah.
So good. I know it's like only when the Brass Scorpion is targeted, but like we have 2 big Psycho Codexes coming out pretty soon. Something to watch out for there, you know?
Something that's probably going to be moving up at the front of your list, absorbing smites. You know?
Now, it's quite weird how that ruling is worded, and I've seen arguments both ways, and I'm not entirely sure which side I fall on, because like the ruling of the wording is like basically it has like it can deny psychic power in a 4+.
Yeah.
And / or ignore mortal wounds caused by psychics on 4+. It's really weirdly worded. Let me get the exact wording up here because
I'm just gonna.
It's very ambiguous and no one really knows how to play it. So the way it says it is each time this model is selected as the target of a psychic power or would suffer mortal wounds as the result of a psychic power, roll 1d6. On a 4+, it is unaffected by that psychic power.
Is there a comma before the or?
There is a comma before the or.
So read it out to me again.
So each time this model is selected as the target of a psychic power, comma, or would suffer mortal wounds as a result of a psychic power, comma, roll 1d6. On a 4+, this model is unaffected by the psychic power.
Yeah, so it's either or. So
right.
It can do both. Like, so what's the argument against it?
So my question is like, I find it really weird that
it's badly written, but
you could smite me and I could fail to deny it, and then you could roll your damage and I still get 4+ shrugs.
Yes.
That seems
if
really wrong.
If there's a comma there, yes.
It just seems wrong. I feel like you shouldn't be able to do that.
No, I agree that you shouldn't, and honestly, if I would check with a TO if I was going to run it, because obviously I need to see it written. In fact, I will look at my codex now.
It's also just strange that the end of it says like on a 4+, this model is unaffected by that psychic power. It doesn't say anything about ignoring the wounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm like, I wonder, is that from like the psychic fallout of a psycho exploding near you or something? I don't know, dude. It's really strange anyway.
Yeah.
And it's also not even an enemy psychic power. So in the old days when you could target I guess you still can though, because if you run them as word bearers or iron warriors or something, right? So the problem with running a brass scorpion as iron warriors is if your master of possession wants to boost his invuln save there, it's just 50-50 chance it won't work. So apart from that, he also has the extra d6 for charging, and he can ignore any and all charge modifiers, which is really good.
Right. Okay, so this, what it means, you know how like Thousand Suns and several other people get like area of effect, or like they can draw a straight line from targets and deal mortal wounds. So the brass scorpion, if I smite your brass scorpion, you can roll a d6, and regardless of whether you succeed or fail, on a 4+, it doesn't affect me, right?
Right.
Or it doesn't affect your brass scorpion. Or if you don't select me as a target, but do something that would could involve my psycho blows up and deals Perils of the Warp exploding head damage to you. That's the result of a psychic power.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
But also like the A to B straight line of mortal wounds.
Yeah. Or like the Grey Knights have one, the Vortex of Doom.
Vortex of Doom, or like the roll 7 dice that Death Guard used to have. All those like weird ones. Basically, if you suffer a mortal wound because of anything psychic, basically what it should say, if this model suffers a wound during the psychic phase on a 4+ it ignores that wound, is what it should say.
Yeah.
Because
it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah. But that is how I interpret it. But yeah.
Yep. He also gets a 3d6 charge, picking the 2 highest, which is hot, and ignores all charge modifiers, which is also hot, and has 2 disgustingly good flamer guns that are like strength 8 or something. Strength 8 AP2 damage 1. Again, really good for flaming orcs, because he has 2 of those. As a scorpion cannon, also pretty good against orcs, because like it's winning them on 4s anyway, and then it's just killing them straight away.
Yeah.
The more I'm looking at him, the scorpion is actually really, really well equipped to just kill orcs.
Yeah, really is. 525, but
it's a bit pricey, and if there's ever a model that's going to get stuck somewhere, it's the Scorpion, because damn, his silhouette is big. Unless you model him really specifically, he's just a really big model, which is unfortunate.
But okay, so the Scorpion cannon is 36 inches, the Demolisher's 24. That Scorpion cannon is picking up a squad, you know, anywhere in the middle table, assuming line of sight. The Demolisher and then the Helmore flame cannon, the closer they get, like if you're stuck in... Yeah, that's the thing. The terrain is what screws this. Because if it can move, then you're golden. This loves it all day, every day. But if you can't, it's not doing enough. Whereas the Lord of Skulls can do enough sitting in your backfield.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's my problem with the Scorpion. As much as I really wish he was good, it's just terrain encumbers him so much. And like, until we get distinct rules of like super heavies can move over or around barricades, or like, you know, I suppose like dense terrain and stuff like that, and like, yeah, I kind of like, this guy is massive. Why can't he crawl over this building? He's a Scorpion, you know?
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, like, that's the biggest issue. If it wasn't for that issue, I would bring a Scorpion for sure, because it's just so cool. You know, it's so damn cool, and it just does a lot of damage. And like, with the way morale works for the orcs now, because they can't just as easily get around it, you will cripple squads, and then in the morale phase they will lose so much more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're the main Lords of War to touch on. You know, they're it's really interesting. Like, there's a load that we could talk about. Like all the tanks, they're all really interesting. They're like, we actually just weirdly have so many Lord of War options. We're really unique in that aspect. You know.
I will very quickly, because someone asked about the Spartan. The Spartan is great if you're playing narratively friendly games. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Competitively, no, not at all. At the moment, I tried my damnedest to make it work, giving it every possible buff. It just doesn't do enough, even with the laser destroyers. It doesn't do enough, unfortunately. I wish it did, but yeah, I don't want to go spend 20 minutes talking about something that isn't really worth it. I think the ones we've talked about can find a place. Certainly the Lord of Skulls and Khitan, Scorpion, and I'll say why in a moment, and the Charybdis, friendlier games, and it's a badass model.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's a very good way of summarizing it. We got like two that can like actually genuinely see competitive play.
Yeah.
And like, look, realistically, if you're watching this and you don't care that much about going Modern World Eaters, bring them as Iron Warriors, because they're so good as Iron Warriors. I don't know if you saw this, but on Reddit, like a couple of weeks ago, someone brought a Brass Scorpion to a GT or a Major, and they did a full write-up of how it did. And like, they were running it as Iron Warriors with the buffs. You know, they had the Master of Possession. I think they actually ran a World Eaters detachment with it, with Berserkers.
Okay.
And yeah, it was good, you know, because like, once you tool it up with the buffs as Iron Warriors, it will stick around. You know, you can get it to a 4-up invuln, feel no pains, and auto healing 3 wounds a turn, on top of a Warpsmith healing it. You know, it's really survivable at that level. And that's what it needs, unfortunately, to be truly competitive, which World Eaters cannot. So like, I went through well, sorry, it wasn't me, but GamesFan in the other Discord, he went through all the legions yesterday in relation to the Lords of War, and we kind of like talked through, you know, what is the good ones for, and like Alpha Legion's pretty good, and Iron Warriors is excellent. Well, that's kind of it, you know, like, we can't bring, as World Eaters, we can't bring anything to the table for a Lord of War outside of the capacity for it to generate a 4+ deny with Scorn and Sorcery, and I think you can use the 6-inch Consolidate strat on it.
Yeah, I believe that's World Eaters model.
Yeah.
There's like 1 or 2 which is literally just World Eaters model.
And that's not bad if you're bringing a Scorpion, because movement is always going to be a problem. So if
the
it's in combat,
Scorpion is a 3d6 charge. It's not pick the highest.
Is it not pick the highest?
Nope. It says each time a charge roll is made, roll 1 additional dice, and you can ignore.
Oh my god.
So it is. I mean, it's obviously 12-inch limit regardless, but you got a 3. You get 3d6. Yep.
Yeah. So using that 6-inch Consolidate is good for the Lord of Skulls and for the Scorpion, because the movement inhibition we talked about, that gets around it.
Slightly, obviously, but you know, like an extra 6 inches on your Lord of War unit, you're not going to say no to that ever. You know, so yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely play there. There's more play now than there ever was in ninth edition. Combination of FAQs, combination of the way the meta's shifting. So yeah, I don't know. They're in a really, really curious spot right now, I think.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us in, because so I was just checking the stratagems, and just for point of note, both Wild Fury and Killmain Burmson -1 AP and 6-inch Consolidate are
Dude,
World
I didn't
Eaters
know
units.
Wild Fury works.
Yep.
That's so good.
You can put Wild Fury on a Rhino.
Okay, that means like that makes it so much better. Okay, because that means like those units will also play really well into AdMech because they ignore AP 1 and 2. They ain't ignoring AP 3 on those swings now.
Yep.
Yep. My brain is turning too fast.
Well, here we go, right? So,
yeah.
Meta. Lord of War's in the meta. Obviously, right now we're in an AdMech. We're looking at AdMech with an eye for Drakari and an eye for Death Guard, Dark Angels, and trying to figure out what the hell the eye for Orcs is, right? And we've always got to worry about Space Marines. And you know, there's always going to be a few Tyranids and Eldar players there.
I think Necrons are a really hard matchup for us as well, just as a side note.
I'll agree with that. They're again, Necrons and Tau are like two armies that not many people are struggling against competitively. They still do work. I'm not saying they're trashed here. They still do work, but you need to be a high level player to make them work, quite frankly. But we kind of suffer generally against them. But what do you think? How do you think the meta is going to shift? First of all, all right, just tell me your thoughts on the upcoming meta with a look at Lord of Wars becoming more of a thing.
Okay, so obviously the upcoming meta we know is fairly heavily dominated by the AdMech right now. Like, and I say fairly heavy, I mean saturated.
Yeah.
And where it's not dominated by them, we've got we got like some sprinklings of Dark Elder. Well, not sprinklings, they're still strong. And then we have like Dark Angels and stuff in deck card coming. We know that. Like everyone's talking about it. We don't need to talk about it. It's probably going to stay that way until the AdMech get an FAQ, which is probably coming out, I think, the second week of August when it's due to drop or something like that, or first week. So it's coming soon, and it's going to probably be as heavy as the Drakari one was. So, I'm not too worried about the AdMech dominating for too much longer. The question is, the Orcs are going to rise up. The Green Tide is coming. It's going to come in a lot of different shapes and sizes because, I think it might have been on the Long War that they were saying this, right? Not a lot of people have AdMech armies, right? They're really, really expensive army to get, and definitely not a lot of AdMech players have 60 Skitarii. Yeah. They just don't. But a lot of people have Orcs. And a lot of people have a lot of different kinds of Orcs. Yeah. So, remember when the Space Marines dropped, and it was really hard to predict the Space Marine meta because everyone had some of everything, so it was really changeable. I think we're going to see a similar thing with the Orcs. I think a lot of people are going to look at the new codex and say, okay, cool, I understand that thing is good, but I have these models, and they're also pretty good, and I'm going to see how I can make that work. I think we're going to see a lot of weird Orc lists. Yeah. But predominantly, it's like we were saying earlier on, going to see a lot of the Squig Hog Riders and the Beast Snagga boys at the start because it's the new shiny thing. Everyone wants to play it. It's really easy to play, blah, blah, blah. It's not meta changing, though. It's not going to warp the meta. It's not that good. It's really strong, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to devastate us,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think about the Orcs.
And I think, so that's something we have to bear in mind. We have to be thinking about T5 and the mini transhuman, right? But that's our immediate future, or post AdMech, mid-August future, right? However, we also need to be thinking about the next 2 books. After that, Thousand Suns and Grey Knights. We're going to enter the psychic meta, right? Presumably. The two biggest psychic books, Eldari should be in there as well, and Tyranids to a lesser extent, but these are 2 factions dedicated to psychic power. That's going to be a rough time for us. However, as we've talked about, there's a Lord of War that's not bad against psychic powers. Doesn't, you know, it can absorb smites. And when we were talking about it, I think what I'm thinking about, or what I'm thinking, is when the Knights books eventually drop, presumably, you know, early next year is what I'm guessing, they're going to do like a revamp of the Titanic keyword. I think they're just saving it for that because for whatever their business reasons is. I imagine Titanic will get some kind of thing where if a model has the Titanic keyword, it may move over area terrain so long as it, you know, it ends clear of the base or clear of the terrain. They have to. As much as they are focusing on terrain, Titanic models, all the Lords of War, Knights, Greater Brass Scorpions, Charybdis, if you've got that keyword, you need essentially pseudo fly for keyword specific things such as obstacle, area terrain, and, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I'm so with you there, because like if my Kaitan has a stride that can walk over a crater, why is he inhibited by it? You know, that's my problem.
Yeah, they, you know, the visual scale of a battlefield is completely wrong. You know, everything is warped in perspective. Buildings aren't really that tall, and Marines aren't really that small. It's like it's a weird, you know, perception. But Titanic models and Lords of War are going to struggle until they do that, because for reasons you've already talked about, like the sheer volume of strength 8 2 damage weapons, right? It's chewing through whatever we need it to chew through.
Right, yeah.
But if you're stuck in your backfield, it's not always the best use, because obscuring is a big deal against Titanic models.
Yep. I mean, especially stationary ones like that. The way the Lord of Skulls can sometimes end up being a bit stationary, you know. Obscuring, and like obviously with like if people start adopting the GW format of boards and stuff, you know, that's pretty dense, but you know, it is still wide enough to drive a Baneblade, which means it's wide enough to drive a Lord of Skulls. So
yeah,
like realistically, I mean, I'm kind of the opinion that if you rock up to a table and you only have like one Lord of War, but the way it's been set up is like you actually can't move it around, I would probably go to the TO and be like, hey, you know, what's up with that? Because like that should never be a thing. You shouldn't be penalized for bringing your cool model that you really like. I'm like, fair enough. If I brought like 3 Brass Scorpions, I should not be able to move those around the table easily. Yeah. But if I bring 1 and there's nowhere for him to go, I'm kind of like, this is a mistake on the TO's part, because like you should never set up a table that like a single Lord of War can't move around.
Yeah.
I honestly think it is like a big issue, and obviously because like Lords of War aren't that popular right now, but like, I mean, I don't know if you saw like the tournament reports from the last weekend, Chaos Knights were doing really, really well, like going
Imperial
up against
Knights
Admech
as well. Knights in general are not doing bad at the moment.
And people are going to see that, and they're going to bring Knights to the tournament, and they're going to start asking questions of, why can't you set up a board where I can move my Knights around? And that is a totally fair question to ask, because you should not be kept out of a tournament for choosing a certain army. And like, everyone should have the capacity to play their army, you know, on a board. Yeah.
There should be equity for every army. Like, it's finding the middle ground, making sure there's at least there's one path minimum from along the long edge of DZ to DZ where a knight could walk and get from end to end. Maybe skirt through some buildings. It doesn't have to be a straight shot with like a shooting gallery. Maybe throw some, you know, some kind of line of sight blocking that the knight can move over, depending on how all those rules work. But yes, a knight should be able to, if it survives long enough, move from one end of the table to the other, and therefore be able to draw a bead on every location on the table if it moves far enough. Not in an easy way, but similarly, infantry models should be able to jump from building to building to avoid that line of sight and make the knight work for it, like they do in the narrative.
For sure. Yeah, I'm fully with you there. I know if I do manage to get to Coventry this year, that they did address it in the rules pack. They said all the boards will accommodate, Lords of War, and they did mention if you bring like 4 Baneblades, it might be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they brought that up, and it's one of the reasons why I'm considering adding Kaitan to my list.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and like I guess the reason why we're talking a lot about the Lords of War, we've seen the FAQ has helped them out a lot, and that's not necessarily why the counter meta is going to develop into one of Lords of War being popular. It's more that like, so the Vanguard blobs for the AdMech are really good against infantry and monsters. They're not as good against vehicles because I don't think you can use enriched rounds against them.
No, it's infantry only, or like infantry beasts.
Infantry and monsters.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't work against them. The strength of the weapons isn't particularly good at taking on toughness 8.
No, I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, it's 5 or 6s. So
they're not doing a crazy amount of damage. And the nature of the last chickens again is like one of those things where it's like, yeah, sure, you could be hitting wounding me, but I'll put Benediction of Darkness in my Kaitan, makes it a little bit tougher. So only half of your hits go through, and yeah, you might wound with all of them or whatever, but I have a 5+ invuln, so another 30% of those just fail at that point. And then, yeah, sure, obviously I'll take some damage. It's the same principle with Dark Lances, because Dark Lances are only strength 8, right? So you're going to be automatically wounding on 4s with those, which is like a massive difference. Like, we know that wound rolls and altering the wound rolls are like a really significant part of the game. So if you're altering the wound rolls by bringing toughness 8 units instead of toughness 7, that's a big play. It's a really big play. And I think Dark Eldar are one of those armies that struggles to deal with those toughness 8 type models. And I just know that the firepower profiles on a lot of the units that we talked about are particularly good and potent at shooting Dark Eldar, as well as shooting AdMech for various reasons. And as I found out, apparently the combat ones are insane because now we can put Wild Fury on them, which is so cool.
It makes a difference, yeah.
And then obviously playing into what I anticipate to be an upcoming Orc meta, all the reasons that we've already said, strength 8 on a lot of the weapons means that the snakebite sort of thing is going to be completely ignored. Yeah. The AP is like just the right amount to be ignoring all the armor saves for the orcs. I just think, like, not that they don't have an answer for Lords of War, but I think if you put one down in front of an orc player, they're going to go like, that's going to be tough.
The orc meta does damage our Volkite strength. Like, our Volkite becomes, or the good Volkite becomes a lot less effective, or like 17% less effective against orcs. But we was already had it in our head.
It was already super efficient though, so I don't think it's inefficient there.
Yeah,
and
it's just
mortal wounds are still going to mess up orcs,
Yeah, well, You're hoping for 6s, no matter what you're shooting at. You're hoping for 6s because 0 AP is, unless.
So I've actually, now that you said it, it's kind of come into my mind. I've actually been building a certain character that is going to play well into Dark Eldar, AdMech, and Orcs. So it's like basically the premise is like a type of HQ character that does a lot of mortal wounds on wound rolls of 6s. So I figured like the best way of doing this is probably with an Exalted Champion because he has the wound rerolls, so you can fish for those extra ones. You give him Gorefather and you give him the... No?
The Exalted Champion can only reroll failed wounds.
Oh, yeah, I know, but like as in general, like as characters that can reroll.
Right, okay.
You give him the Gorefather for the 3 mortal wounds on 6s, and then you give him Flames of Spite, so you get an extra one again. And I think Flames of Spite is 6+, so you might even be able to proc it on Death of the False Emperor. But yeah, basically, you're going into like a squad, and the Exalted Champion gets a good few attacks, right?
4+2 for charging.
Yeah, and so you're going into Imperium, so you pop the Death of the False Emperor on 5s, which becomes 6s. So you get in your hits or whatever, and like every time you roll a 6, you're picking up 4 Vanguard, you're picking up 4 Boys, you're picking up 4 Incubi.
Let me give you my one on that. I'm running with a Jump Lord because it's still 4 attacks, and it's the Gorefather, and I throw a Melter on there as well, and Disciple of Khorne, because that is reroll all hits and wounds.
I see it.
But the thing is, it's only against characters and models with 5 wounds or more. So it's not ticked for the blob, but the point is to get to the marshal, or the characters they rely on, the Daedalosus thing that is something else now.
Techno archaeologist or something.
Is to jump over, and be able, to position, use apoplectic frenzy, get all the movement you can, to go in and just, you combi melt of the marshal, and then you charge another character or two characters, because they're all going to be in places where they can quickly and easily buff their, throw their orders on what they need to, and you spend 100 and something points. And you just massacre 2 or 3 characters, and then you die.
Yeah, but you don't care at that point.
And
it's like the same thing with me with the champion, because I'm like, yeah, he pops out of a berserker squad that he was already buffing.
Yeah.
And then he just picks up like 8 of these infantry models if he rolls 2 6s, and you're kind of like, huh, that was definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Because if you take like any like kind of like an orc boy is he 9 or 10 points now or something? Cost him at 9 because I'm not fully sure, right? So if he picks up 8 of those, that's like 72 points. So he's made his points back pretty much, It's not even the point though, because like you've just taken a chunk out of a squad from like this like weirdo guy who like no one would have expected, And I think it's like it's doubled up because like we don't really care about warlord traits, It's just not such a big deal.
There's just nothing there.
So you might as well throw Flames of Spite on someone with Gorefather because it's just the extra mortal wounds, I'm kind of as like a counter meta choice. I can see him playing into those 3 armies particularly nicely.
The thing about the Exalted Champion, he rerolls hits against characters as well. So I wish we had Disciple of Khorne against everything, because being able to reroll everything, if you're doing, Death of the False Emperor on 5s and mortal wounds on 6s to wound, if you can fish, you can get an absurd amount of damage through. Like I've had it spike on me, and it's just. So I started off with 5 dice and I just wounded you 9 times. I'm not sure how that happened, but it did, It's... but yeah, I think, and it's weird because Mark, in his list, took a Gorefather Assassin Lord. I think we're all starting to see... We need a character that's going to use the Lookout Sir, or whatever inherent defense is, whether that's like the speed of apoplectic frenzy in a jump pack, or a Lookout Sir protected by the drill and the berserkers, to get in and trade. And it's less about the points trade, like in your killing 8 orcs for 70 points, or in me killing 70 points of Admech command. The fact is, the return is better than just the points trade.
Yeah, like it's not always about the points trade.
Exactly.
It's sometimes it's disruption. It's a huge issue.
Yeah. And I think whilst we haven't really had like Hero Hammer or whatever this edition, they are a weapon we have, and like you say, our warlord traits and relics are okay. But violent urgency is something we should just not be using competitively. I don't think.
At least not leaning on it anyway, for sure.
Yeah, not leaning on it. If you've got no other choice, it's the one to take if you've got no choice. But I think we now have to consider the choice is making the nuclear missile. Is making the one HQ that you're going to get into a position that he's going to run in and he is going to murderize what he touches, and then he's going to die. But he's going to do enough to blunt their advance, to take out their, cut off the head. And I think that is maybe where we need to look at.
I'm totally with you there. I mean, like, I just think, as you said, like, making that assassin character it's going to be huge, you got to be smart to play him, though, because if you misplay him, he just dies too early because our characters are so fragile. Yeah. So, if you played him at the wrong time, he's not going to get that return that you're looking for. So, it's really all about in the sort of sensibility of knowing when to unleash him, which kind of...
Fucking cat's meowing. It's off.
Yeah, your cat's meowing. The dog I'm looking after is going crazy, giving it to whoever's outside. But, I think... like it's a really interesting build that maybe we're not touching on just yet, but I think we have the tools, like I said, to take on some of those either infantry or characters. And like you said, it's all about that disruption. You know, you don't have to always make your points back. When you do, it's great. But like if you're taking out a HQ character that is providing enough buffs to more than make your points back, you know, like a Skitarian Marshal, Techno-Archaeologist, Drazar even. I know the orcs don't really have a lot of buffing characters going on. They're more like standalone, very good. But you know, you take out one of them, it's a big deal too. You take out the war boss before he calls the wag, and it's like, oh, see ya.
We veered a bit off topic for our Lord of War discussion. I just realised
it's coming. This is the counter meta part.
Like so, it is. Where that conversation started, or that part of the conversation started, was when you said about the meta is AdMech, right? And they are not currently well equipped to deal with a lot of T8, which is true. They, you know, the last chickens, but at the moment, the lists are veering towards the blob, the infantry carpet, right? That's where they're going. There was a Astra Militarum list, which did well, I think, at a GT last weekend, which was basically guardsmen. Like, it's like how it was briefly in 8th edition, around like when Gene Stealers dropped, and it was like it was just like that brief time, because everyone had tech for knights, and then suddenly, I will
Carpet
just
hammer.
Drown you in bodies now.
Like 200 Groths or like 200 Hormiguns or something. There's always play to that, you know, there's always going to be play to that. It's just really interesting seeing how the meta kind of shifts and adapts around that, you know. So I guess so a lot of what we're talking about today is like, you know, can you start bringing these Lords of War, because it's a series of, you know, we've always said it, these really, really small changes. Each change makes the next change that little bit better. So it's like this like domino effect, you know. And I think that's what we're seeing with the Lords of War. It's a very, very subtle domino effect coming on.
I think the critical way to do it for us, for World Eaters, we look at, right, so if the meta is shifting towards T8, if it is, we could be completely fucking wrong here, but I think it does look like it, or T8 is currently very strong, which we know it is. You can go the full Knight army, right? You could bring 3 Knight Crusaders or whatever I know nothing about. Knight Rampagers, Desecrators, whatever. You could bring 3 of those and some little armigers. Or you can go the infantry carpet. Or you can be World Eaters and kind of do both. Which drills do both.
Yep.
I know it's proof of concept at the moment, but because I know you were very busy this week, we've had a lot of chatter and a lot of theorising about the Land Raider Achilles, which I know you were sceptical of when I brought it up to you. But
yes.
I've got some people interested.
When you kind of like, the way you pitched it to me was very clever when you gave me all its stats, and I was like, yeah, that's good. And you're like, it's the Land Raider Achilles. And I was like, Land Raider, get it away.
But these are T8 models, right? These are T8 models that have good offensive capability. Like, it's the Melter on the drill, it's Volkite on the Achilles, plus the line of sight ignoring, and then they also have Berserkers for guts. Now, that is like the icing on the cake, because we're running World Eaters, we're taking Berserkers. Now, yes, I think there is definitely a place for a Khorne Lord of Skulls, and as we know from strong results at the ACO, mixing a Khorne Lord of Skulls with other T8 and then offensive infantry like Warp Talons, Berserkers, it fucking works. It does the job. Sure. So there is a place for that bunch of T4 and a bunch of T8, and then ignore the other numbers basically, because it's either 8 or it's half of 8, and 8 is the only number we care about, right?
That's a fact, man. It's a fact. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. It's going to require some scheming. I'm going to have to go back to the boards. Really think about this over the next
gang. Hashtag Heels Gang, yeah.
Yeah, let's we'll be touching the comments, see what people are asking us or whatever, and I think we pretty much covered it after that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it is like we've talked about. It's a huge it's a huge topic, and me and you, we start talking and we just go off in 30 different ways. So, all right, let's. I'm looking at the comments right here. So, a lot of stuff about the Lord of Skulls and the Brass Scorpion, which we kind of talked about. Talking about the points and the dollar cost or the euro cost of the Lord of Skulls and stuff.
How much is the Lord of Skulls actually?
According here, the Brass Scorpion I think is 200 euros.
Yeah.
So the Lord of Skulls and the Khitan are cheaper. It doesn't say the price, but I know they're cheaper.
The Khitan is like not that much cheaper. I think it's like 180 euro maybe.
Yeah, I believe the Lord of Skulls is the cheapest.
Yeah, for sure.
It's $160, I think, US.
Yeah, it's probably like 120 euro, 100 euro, something like that. Yeah.
And then conversation about how the terrain would work or suck. Basically, I have a question: can you move and put models under the Scorpion?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I think in the new Forge World rules, there's like a stipulation about its base.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's like
cause...
there's like a little text box under all those kind of models. The same with the Blood Slaughter, where it's like you basically draw an imaginary line between the points of his legs, and that becomes his base. So I just went ahead and made a base for my Blood Slaughters because I'm like, instead of having to argue about that every time, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to use an oval base and put my Blood Slaughter on that. And I know people do put their Brass Scorpions on bases. There's nothing wrong with that. You totally can, provided it's the right dimensions of the feet and not any bigger or smaller,
Yeah.
I don't think you can move guys under it because I'm fairly sure the way it counts now is like he has a base for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. Okay. And that is the way you should play it that because, with Forge World stuff and the Lords of War, if GW clarified that you could because it's a Titanic model, fine. But before, when they didn't clarify that sort of stuff, you should play to your disadvantage, I guess, and not deploy under there. That's my kind of response to that.
Yeah, I would say if you do that, first of all, I don't think it's allowed because of how the way they've worded that thing. Second of all, if you do, you're running a little bit of a risk, I would say, of like someone calling you out. And I mean, is it really worth it even in the end? I mean, sure, I guess you can like technically use it as a transport, and like if it's like fully obscuring or something, you'd have to model the Brass Scorpion specifically to make it work too.
I don't want to even get into that. So sad the Spartan's not holding up. Yeah, it's a shame, Dan. The Spartan,
such a cool tank.
It is. We'll see what Horus Heresy update brings us. Then Freight is talking about how Mechanicum, Admech and Drakari are definitely still going to be in play for the next several months.
Absolutely.
We're just going to, the Admech are going to come down like the Drakari have come down a little bit, and every time a new codex drops, like the playing field's going to even more and more. It's just we're Drakari is still up here, Admech are up here, and our other 9th codex is down here, so we're at the top of the Admech wave. Orcs are going to bring it down a bit, maybe not supersede it, but they'll temper it. And then our Grey Knights and Thousand Sons, I think, as long as they're not just completely shafted, will be very strong counters to Admech, because mortal wounds, I'm imagining, are going to be being thrown out left, right, and centre by these armies.
Going to devastate the Admech.
Admech currently don't care about the psychic phase because no one really fucks in the psychic phase. We've got 2 armies that are about to, that are probably going to have some kind of psychic power. Roll a d6 for every model in a unit. On a 4+, it suffers a mortal wound. Are you going to be bringing all those blobs of 20 Skitarii then? No, you're not, because then they're going to be coming in with their, special bolt guns that give like -12 AP and shit. So.
Yep, I think it's going to be real funny to see a lot of Admech drop. But I guess like specifically, we're not so much talking here about like what the meta is going to develop into. It's more the counter meta.
Yes.
The armies that'll play well. Like you as a World Eater player, what are you bringing to beat like the Admech, the Drakari, and the Orcs?
Yeah.
That's more like what we covered today. We're not saying like Knights are going to overtake the meta now. It's more that they play better into these harder matchups, somewhat.
I think the night books, when they do drop, will be very big, because we know, like me and you have talked about it and shoot some ideas back and forth and stuff, but knights need the biggest fix out of every faction. Tau just need, they need to be, made so they can fly and still shoot or something like that. It's a couple lines of text and they can keep their old book and they'll be broken as fuck. They always will be. Knights cannot play the game against everybody. Okay, they're doing well at the moment because they're counter meta. But they're counter meta, they're not meta. They cannot play the game. Like, Mark just beat 3 knight players at the LSO, so they're not a strong army. They're not broken. They're just good against meta choices.
Yeah, like knights play really well into AdMech, but if you're a world leader player and you come up against knights, you're rubbing your hands, because that is a good matchup for you.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I get to do everything. I get to do a lot of charges and have a lot of fun. But the point is, when that book drops, they're going to have to so drastically change them, where like one idea was for purposes of holding objectives, knights have, extend their range to an objective by 6 inches or something so they don't have to be locked on these positions and can be more mobile.
I'm gonna go out and say something very potentially controversial about knights.
Okay, I like it.
I think knights need a new unit, and I think that new unit needs to be some form of thrall or sort of serf.
Yep.
So make it a thrall for chaos, make it a serf for loyalists. So basically, you know how the AdMech have the Titan Guards? I can't remember what they're called. But they hoplites. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, right. So we need an equivalent for knights, and that's all you have to do. Give them an infantry troop support unit, and first of all, that would look so cool on the board. And second of all, it makes them a lot better, and you don't have to have this like weird thing where like knights counter 10 models, which still should potentially be a good fix. I just think. Sorry, go on.
Did you ever play Warhammer Fantasy?
Yes,
Total War Warhammer? Bretonnians. Very powerful elite knights, and then utter trash peasants and yeomen. That's what they should get. They should get the absolute dregs of society as like a cultist militia, but like honourable or whatever.
And the thing is, it exists in the lore. I know in some of the books I've read, the night planets, like the household planets, they have these serfs, they have these like thralls and stuff. Just make it happen, And I think that's a good fix. As to whether or not we'll see it, I don't know. Who knows? But look, that is a whole other discussion for another day. Like there's so many ways knights could be fixed, but not just yet, unfortunately.
But I think they're going to be a big meta shaker when they do drop. But
absolutely.
So Freighter says, Dark Eldar and AdMech, we're going to struggle versus Thousand Sons of Grey Knights. We absolutely are going to.
Yep.
But I think with Black Templars being the book after that or supplement after that, we will see what we can expect. I think Black Templars is going to be the biggest book we can expect to mirror vaguely close to.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot in the Black Templar Codex that's going to make me be like, that's hopefully going to be a World Eaters thing.
Yeah, I we're not going to be mirror image, but Ultramarines and Black Legion, they're like the dark mirrors of each other. Black Templars is going to be our dark mirror, right?
For sure.
So then, what we got? Master of Executions. Warp Talons are good as missile. Hill Gang. You should have got Krieg in on this debate. I know.
He would have had a thing or two to say about the Mastodon, I'm sure.
Yeah, someone asked about Mastodon, but it disappeared up there. 125 euros for the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Knights should all be objective secured and count as 10 models. Yes, I 100% agree they should. And then give them something small and cheap. Yep, again, agreed. And Gargants in AOS are a good example. Okay, so there's precedent.
Right.
But yeah. So yeah, that's all our comments. Is there any kind of closing thoughts you've got, Dara?
I think we're facing into a very interesting sort of quarter for 40k, competitively speaking. hopefully there's going to be sort of like an AdMech FAQ as the orcs kind of start to hit the scene. And we're going to get a lot of weird stuff happening in the competitive scene, you know? So yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway is like, it's going to be a fairly turbulent couple of months here.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really hard to necessarily predict what's going to happen. I think we've done our best to try and predict. We're going to have to start going back to our drawing boards again and rethinking.
Yeah, very soon,
big time, like real soon. We're going to have to, maybe we should already start planning, you know, because I'm starting to plan now.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think a lot of stuff we're going to need to think about. It's a really interesting time again. It's cool that it's freshening up because, you know, I hate when it gets stagnant. So yeah, like that's kind of my thoughts on the whole matter. Yeah, if you have anything else to close out with.
Not really. I think we covered it all. I just think, like what you said about the quarters there, we had our Space Marine quarter, then we had our, you know, Death Guard Necrons quarter, then we had our AdMech Sisters and Drakari quarter. Orcs feels like it's the start of the next quarter because they're a fun psychic army. They're not a super powerful psychic army, but they do hilarious things in the psychic phase. Then we're going to get 2 psychic books. Then we're going to get an anti-psychic supplement or codex. Then it's going to be interesting what drops at Christmas time. I think the way that the meta adjusts over, I know.
Pray for Christmas chaos. Pray for it.
Pray for the red snow, right?
Pray for it.
But yeah, I think we're gonna the rest of this year is going to be very interesting. Because we just don't know. After Black Templars, it's absolutely anyone's guess. And there's a book we know we want, and we deserve a damn Chaos.
I really also want the Codex Tau. I mean, yeah, Space Marines, right?
Everyone in the chat is telling you to get out. Get out.
Whatever.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks everyone.
We covered a lot.
Chat. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out with us as always. It was good fun. Good to talk about some interesting units that I haven't seen play for a while.
Yeah.
You know, fun times ahead.
Yep. So yeah, thanks everyone, and we will catch you later. So until next time, I just got to make sure I get my right button here so I don't look like an idiot. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.